Today, friends, we're going to be talking about lookup. And the last time we met, we talked about the V lookup and we talked about the H lookup. But basically, today we're going to be talking about the lookup function that is available here in Excel. Just to get you started with the lookup function, friends, I'm going to just explain a few things. And we've already talked about the H lookup and we've talked about the V lookup. Now, the V lookup is a vertical lookup. In other words, it looks for the matching item, a value that matches a particular value we've selected. In other words, if we pick a particular value, we can match the value vertically, all right, with maybe the country, or maybe vertically with the name that corresponds to this particular value, or vertically with the sales channel that corresponds to this particular value. Or we can perform a H lookup where we can pick the country and then try to identify or maybe what country matches a particular value or whatever. All right, so but basically, friends, at this juncture, when we're talking about lookup, lookup involves both the H lookup and the V lookup, depending on how you specify your formula in Excel. The lookup function is much more powerful. It can carry out a search vertically and also horizontally. If I just come over to formulas and I come over to lookup and references, you can see we have H lookup over here, friends, and also we have the V lookup, but then we have lookup. All right, as you can see, Excel is telling us that what it does is that it looks up a value either from a one row or one column range, or from an array provided for backward compatibility. I can click on tell me more, and Excel is going to tell me a whole lot more about how the lookup function works. Just to give you a head start on how to use the lookup function, I'm going to explain something really quick. And I know right now it may not make a lot of sense, but then as we delve more into the video and as I show you lots of examples, it's going to be made much more easier and it's going to make a lot of sense to you guys. All right, so friends, the first thing I'm going to do right now is warn you about the lookup function. Now, in the lookup function, I'm just going to show you an example. If I type in equals to and I type in lookup, all right, and then I open my bracket. Now you can see we have two sets of different ways in which you can impute values in the lookup function. We can first put in the lookup value over here, and then we can put in the lookup vector, all right, and then we can put in the result vector. All right, so that's one way we can use the lookup function. Or in the lookup section also, we can just use the lookup value and then just the array. And then these are two basic ways in which we can use the lookup function. All right, what I'm going to do right now is take it from simple to more complex. So I'm going to start with using just the lookup value and then the array, and then I'm going to delve more as we explore some of the example. I'm going to delve more into how we use the lookup value, the lookup vector, and then the results vector. All right, so friends, basically at this juncture right now, let's start with the lookup value and the array. All right, so at this juncture right now, friends, we have a table over here. All right, so these are data set 1, and we have the ID, country, name, and sales channels. So what we've been asked to do right now, friends, is to match the names or pick up the names that matches this particular distributor's ID. What I did over here was that I picked this distributor's ID and then I reshuffled them. I just picked them randomly. I just scattered it around. All right, so you can see I scattered the distributor's ID. I took this value over here, the last value over here, I made it the second over here, and so I made it in such a way that we can easily identify what the lookup function is doing here in our spreadsheets. All right, so first right now we have this same distributor's ID rearranged over here in a different order. All right, now what we want to do is to fill up the names that matches this distributor's ID, and then look for the sales channels and fill it up. We can't do this manually. Trust me, it's going to be very much onerous, and so we don't want to do this manually. We want to use Excel to accomplish this task. So what I'm going to do right now is double tap in this box. I'm going to say equals to, and then I'm going to type in lookup. It pops up. All right, I'm going to open my bracket. So what we need is to use the lookup value and then the lookup array. So this is the value I'm looking up, so I'm going to just click on that value, put a comma sign, then the array. What I'm going to do right now, friends, now it's very much important how you specify your array, because that's what's going to determine what Excel is going to output for you as the lookup value. All right, so right now what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start from here and highlight up to this section where I have names. Now if you look at the section where I highlighted, I didn't highlight sales channels. All right, the last time we were working with VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, the array was the entire table. But right now the entire table for us, what the lookup function is doing is this. The lookup function is going to look for the value, is going to work with the last column all right, it's going to work with this particular column. So if I had highlighted up to this portion of sales channels, it's going to work with this column of sales channels. All right, so it's going to be working with the last column. So you want to make your array end with the last column that you're searching for the value to match. All right, so at this juncture right now, I'm going to click on enter, and now it's going to give me the exact name I'm looking for. So if this were a country, and then I'm supposed to look for the country, therefore my array would be this. Right, just ending with this. Right, if I was, for example, this other sales channel section, I'm going to come to that, and I'm going to show you how it works. So but for this right now, I'm going to come to the bottom right, and I'm going to just left click and drag down to the end, and then it's supposed to give me my values, but right now it's not giving me my values. What is happening in Excel right now is that Excel is dragging down the formula because I didn't use cell locking. All right, so I'm supposed to use cell locking. Let me just show you what it's doing. I'm going to double tap inside here. You can see my formula is being dragged down, all right, because I didn't lock the cell. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is come back here, and then I'm going to lock the cell, this particular B19. I'm not going to lock B19. I'm going to lock B3 down to D6. So this is what I'm going to lock. So I'm just going to highlight what I want to lock, hold my function key, and press F4 on my keyboard. And now I've locked it. I'm going to click on enter. Now that I've clicked on enter, I'm going to come back to the bottom right and drag again. All right, so now you can see we have the right names being populated there in our Excel spreadsheet. So how do we work with the same thing for the sales channels? That's how we work with sales channels. Equals to lookup. I'm just going to double tap here. What value am I trying to look up? This is the value I'm looking up for, and then I've taught you how to use the array. All right, so in the array section right now, what I need to highlight is to highlight this entire cell until the last cell is the column where I want to search for the matching value. All right, so at this juncture right now, I just highlighted up to this section of sales channels, and then I stopped, and I'm going to just lock it. Of course, I just need to highlight them, and then hold my function key, press on F4. All right, and then I need to close my bracket, and then I click on enter. All right, so right now it's giving me the sales channel for Uriel Benton. All right, so I'm going to come to the bottom right, click and drag down to the bottom. All right, so friends, that's basically how we fill up our Excel table using the lookup function. All right, so if this were a country, if I had another column called country, and I wanted to just populate the values for country, now my array would be just this. Right, I've already shown you all of that. Now something to be careful or mindful of, and I'm going to come to that, but before coming to that, let me just make it a little bit easier on you. So what we are going to do right now is we are going to repeat the same thing, right, here over here, just the same thing that we did over here basically. Right, so what we are told to look for right now is to look up the country for a randomly selected distributor's ID. All right, so I'm going to double tap into countries, and I'm going to say equals to, I'm going to say lookup. All right, so lookup right now. And then what am I looking up for? I'm looking for this particular value, and then I click on this particular value, put a comma sign, and then what am I looking up? What array am I looking for? All right, I'm looking for it in the country section, which I've just shown you. All right, so I'm going to stop, make sure my array stops in this section, and the last column stops at the column where I'm trying to look for the matching value. All right, so this way I'm going to highlight, because it talks about countries. So I'm going to just highlight these two columns, this section where we have country. All right, so I'm going to lock this cell. I just highlight it, hold my function key, and then press F4 on my keyboard. All right, now that I've pressed F4 on my keyboard, I'm just going to close my bracket, and then when I close my bracket, I click on enter. All right, so right now you can see for 23265 we have South Africa. Now I can change this value over here, and this country will change. All right, the value for country will change. So right now let's put 23315. All right, so let me just change this to 23315. Now you can see it's giving me something else. I didn't type the right value over here, so I'm just going to do this. All right, so it's giving me Burkina Faso. All right, so that's basically how this works. So if I change it to 23326 26, right, it's going to change to Slovenia, and so I can change my values over here and watch this particular spreadsheet change. The same thing over here, I can change the value over here, and this whole these two columns are going to change. So if, for example, I put something like 23315 over here, all right, so maybe something like 23315. All right, so right now, sorry, 23315. All right, so you can see the two columns change. All right, becoming the same thing as this. All right, so friends, basically that's how we use the lookup function in a basic way, just to fill up our table. All right, so what Excel did for us here right now using the lookup is that it did the VLOOKUP all right, it did a vertical search, all right, it searched for the data vertically, all right. So but we can search for the data horizontally, in a horizontal manner, all right. So for instance, you can see over here our data are arranged vertically because the headers are on top, all right. So in this other example over here, our data are arranged horizontally. You can see our headers over here, all right. So and then our data is arranged horizontally, all right. So what we want Excel to do is we want to use the lookup function to perform a H lookup, all right. So we have to be very much clever over here if this is going to work, all right. So what we're going to do basically right now, friends, is to put in our, I'm going to just show you an example. I'm going to click on this particular cell, double tap, and I'm going to say equal to, and we have to be fast over here. So I'm just going to say lookup, and then I'm going to open my bracket. All right, so what value am I trying to look up for? All right, I'm trying to look for this particular value. Still working with the lookup and array. We've not come to lookup vectors and result vector. I'm going to explain that in a bit. All right, so I'm going to just put a comma sign. Then what array am I looking up this value for? Country. All right, so I'm going to highlight, and then I'm going to highlight these two cells over here. All right, so now that I've highlighted this, friends, what I'm going to do right now is release my mouse, and I'm going to lock it. All right, now we do this function F4, and having locked it, I'm just going to close my bracket and click on enter, and now you can see that the country that matches this particular value has been filled in the box. All right, so we have South Africa over here. I can just come to the bottom right, drag down, and I'm going to get the right values for the remaining countries. All right, so friends, what about the sales channels? And now this is where it becomes very much handy, and I must show you how this works. But before doing this, let me just write something over here. What I'm going to do right now, friends, is I'm going to put something else called names, and then I'm going to do that for names. So I'm just going to leave that cell for sales channel. So I'm going to put maybe some other column called names. All right, and then this is for sales channels. So let me just show you something real quick. All right, so friends, let's do that for names, and then I'm going to show you what I want to show you with sales channels. I'm going to double tap inside here, look up, the same thing we've done. All right, look up, then I'm going to open a bracket, and the lookup value I'm trying to look up for is this. Then the array, we already know how to work with this. So I'm going to drag down until I see names. All right, the row showing names is where I have to stop. All right, if I exceed it, it's going to be searching for the data in the next row. If I stop here, it's going to be searching for countries, and it's going to be giving me the values that correspond with the countries I'm filling the box. All right, but what I want are the names. All right, so I have to stop in that particular row containing names. All right, so now that I've stopped in the row containing names, what is going to be looking for here right now is going to pick up this distributor's ID, and then it's going to be searching this particular row to see the value that matches that particular distributor's ID. That's what Excel is basically doing. So right now I'm going to lock this particular highlighted table. All right, friends. So I'm just going to come over here, function F4, and I'm going to close the bracket, and then I'm going to click on enter. All right, so friends, as you can see right now, we have the names that matches this particular distributor's ID. And if I just come to the bottom right and drag down to the end, I'm going to have the names, the right names, filling in my data set. All right, so friends, that's basically how we work with Excel.